Support for Destination Michigan is provided by the CMU Bookstore. T-shirts, sweatshirts, hats, maroon and gold memories, and an official outfitter of Adidas apparel at the Central Michigan University-owned and operated CMU Bookstore. Online shopping 7 days a week at cmubookstore.com. The CMU Bookstore, online at cmubookstore.com, on campus in the University Center, and game day locations at Kelly Short Stadium and the John G. Kohalvi Event Center.
Hello everyone, I'm Matthew Ozanek and welcome to Destination Michigan, the series that takes you to every corner of the Great Lakes State in search of the sights, the sounds, and the people that define the Michigan experience. Coming up on this episode of Destination Michigan.
That's the unique thing about our show, is that we want them to have that feeling of the late 1880s.
We'll introduce you to world champion log roller Dan McDonough and find out what draws so many people to his wildly popular lumberjack shows in Mackinaw City.
It's this really wonderful 20,000 square foot playland of architecture.
Stefanie Mills will take us on a tour of one of the most unique homes that we have ever seen.
I always say that if you take the HI off of history, it spells story.
Come along with us as we discover the stories that live inside this awe-inspiring castle that stands in the heart of downtown Saginaw. Steve Smith will also introduce us to some fine folks in Shepherd who came together to create something truly spectacular. And Bob Garner sits down with his friend John Kohalvi to chat about what inspired him to create his Wild Frontier Fun Park in Comins. All of these stories are coming your way on this episode of Destination Michigan. Now, in many of the places we visited over the years here on Destination Michigan, we often hear about what an impact the once booming lumbering industry has had in our state's identity. From tales of freighters hauling lumber through the Detroit River to great statues erected to honor the memory of Michigan's lumbermen. That heritage lives on in one of northern Michigan's most picturesque lakeside towns. Beneath the shadow of the mighty Mac, there's a group of guys putting on a very special show that's bringing Michigan's lumbering history to life and entertaining thousands of visitors every summer. We start this episode of Destination Michigan with a visit to Mackinaw City to take in a performance at the Jack Pine Lumberjack Show. By any measure, the life of a lumberjack in northern Michigan at the turn of the century was a pretty harsh existence. But out of that history grew a sport that has taken the world by storm and has given Mackinaw City one of its most unique attractions.
The reason I chose Mackinaw City is I grew up in Escanaba, Michigan, and I wanted to just kind of keep it local. I'm proud of being from Michigan and the logging history that's here.
And we got two professional lumberjacks that are going to come out here and compete against each other. Now they need to know you're excited, because if you're excited, they're going to get excited. They're going to chop, saw, climb, and log roll that much harder.
Each summer, people from all over the world flock to the Jack Pine Lumberjack Show in Mackinaw City, where Dan McDonough and his lumberjacks put on thrilling performances that are a perfect marriage of precision skills and brute strength. The shows are a throwback to the contests that rival logging camps would hold to prove once and for all which camp had the strongest, the fastest, and the toughest lumberjacks. To recreate these rivalries, Dan starts each show by splitting the crowd into two rival camps, Mill Creek Logging Camp and Mackinaw City Logging Camp.
That's the unique thing about our show, is that we want them to have that feeling of the late 1880s. And we'll divide them up, and they get to cheer for one guy and boo for another. And I don't know if they like to cheer more than they boo, but we have a lot of fun, and we encourage them to yell timber. Timber! That's kind of our catchphrase, and from there on out, it's just let's have some fun. We do 3 different chopping events. We do a crosscut sawing, a stock sawing event, pole climbing, log rolling, boom running. For the most part, all the events we do actually evolve from a workaday skill that these lumberjacks did. Our lumberjacks, it's just absolutely incredible what they do in an hour's time.
These lumberjacks earn every cheer. They're fierce competitors and masters of the axe, the crosscut saw, the chainsaw, the evolution of the logging trade represented with each event. They move through the events at lightning speed, and in the heat of the late evening sun, they stand like gladiators, both competing for the crowd's affection.
We're very fortunate. We got 4 lumberjacks One of them is my partner, Derek Knutson. He's a world champion pole climber and a 3-time Iron Jack champion. He's absolutely phenomenal in everything he does.
I got into lumberjack sports. My mom was a competitive log roller. In the summertime, she taught some log rolling classes, and she started me off log rolling when I was 4 years old. From there, I started doing shows in my hometown, Hayward, Wisconsin, and picked up all the other events in high school and just kind of kept doing them, and here I am. It's a mental game the whole way through, and it's knowing what you're doing and doing it under pressure consistently, I think, is one of the things that makes you a champion. If you enjoy what you do, you never work a day, and I enjoy cutting wood every day. It's one of my favorite things.
Even though each lumberjack is competing to be crowned the bull of the woods, they never lose that smile on their face. Because after all, the show is fun, and it's meant to be fun. But it's also meant to be a tribute to a hardy and noble breed of lumbermen whose hard work and dedication provided the resources that would build an entire nation.
But it's important for me to try to connect that we're not just doing these events just for the sake of doing them, that there's a tie-in from what these lumberjacks did, 120, 130 years ago. I just touch on it in the shows, and if I said everything I knew, we'd be here for 4 or 5 hours.
For the audience, it's a glimpse into the lives of those that came before them, and in some cases, a glimpse into their own family's history, and that dangerous profession where brutal conditions and long hours were met with a pioneering spirit.
It's part of Americana, it's part of our history, and it's kind of fun after the show to have someone come up to you and say, well, my great-grandfather logged here or there. So you kind of feel that connection. So we're just trying to keep that history alive. We've had people come back the next day because they couldn't believe what they've seen. That makes you feel pretty good. You know you're doing your job right.
Derek Knutson was recently selected as one of only 6 lumberjacks to represent the United States at the Sydney Royal Easter Show in Australia later this year. We all wish him the best of luck. If you'd like to find out more about the Jack Pine Lumberjack shows and reserve yourself a seat for one of their performances, you can visit their website, jackpinelumberjackshow.com. Now, no other name is more synonymous with the city of Midland than the name Dow. Herbert Dow founded Dow Chemical in Midland in 1897, but not everyone in his family followed him into the field of engineering and chemistry. Herbert's son Alden, for instance, took a much different path, a path that would influence the architectural landscape of Michigan and beyond for years to come. Destination Michigan's Stefanie Mills gives us a glimpse into this remarkable man's life and designs with a tour of the Alden B. Dow home and studio in Midland.
Mr. Dow built hundreds of stunning and one-of-a-kind homes all over the country. He even designed a city down in Texas, including streetways, religious buildings, and a library. His designs and his legacies live on here at the Alden B. Dow home and studio in Midland.
Alden Dow was an architect and a philosopher. At the end of his life, he was asked how would he like to be remembered, and he said as a philosopher, yet we have so many great visual representations of his creativity in architecture.
Alden Dow embraced his family heritage. Even though he didn't follow in his father's footsteps exactly, he leaves behind a legacy all his own. Alden learned quickly that he had other passions than the family business. After a brief time at the University of Michigan, Alden enrolled at Columbia University, where he found his love for design.
Mr. Dow had a 50-year career in architecture starting in the early 1930s. He had just come back from studying with Frank Lloyd Wright at the Taliesin Fellowship in 1933 and was very busy. He got right to work. He had great work ethic and was so excited to create new forms of architecture. He would eventually design over 130 buildings in Midland alone. There are 350 buildings throughout the state. Throughout his whole career, he designed over 600 projects.
With such a long-running career, it's no surprise that Mr. Dow achieved the prestigious title of Architect Laureate of Michigan. It's even more evident when you take a tour of his Midland home. This is where he worked and, along with his wife Veda, raised their 3 children.
It's this really wonderful 20,000 square foot custom structure that's submerged into a pond that's a playland of architecture. We love to say it's an oasis of architecture and inspiration. At the end of this little cul-de-sac, you start to see this unusual building made of unique materials that blends into the environment, and you instantly start to question it. So it's fun instantly. When a building that's over 80 years old engages your mind, and you want to know more, and then going through the building is a scavenger hunt because it's kind of this meandering, wandering building that captures your imagination. You can never see the whole structure from any one vantage point. Each room is different from the next, yet it transitions from one space to another. So it's dynamic with color and light and material use and its integration and connection to nature. You're never in a space that isn't connecting you to the outdoors and the ever-changing movement and light and textures of the world around us.
Not only is this magnificent home a breathtaking exhibit of nature, comfort, and style, it's also a beautiful reflection of the kind of man Mr. Dow was.
Mr. Dow was this fascinating man, and he had this quiet, gentle exterior, but he parallels the building in that although when you first come up to the building you want to know more, you have no idea of all of the treasures that are behind it. And that's how Mr. Dow was. He was this man who was so engaged and passionate about all aspects of life. So he really mirrors his buildings.
With the support of his father, Alden Dow became one of, if not the greatest architect in Michigan. After his death, his wife and children decided to preserve this home and share it with the community as a way to inspire others to use their creativity and teach young people to think more outside the box.
I think we all seek things that inspire us, that we can't see anywhere else, that make us think. And the Alden B. Dow Home and Studio is one of those places. And when you tell someone, hey, let's go to this historic home, I think there's this sigh like, oh, really, historic home. We are a dynamic center of architecture and ideas, and you come and learn about Mr. Dow in the building, but it's really learning about yourself. You learn, it challenges your ideas about architecture, about housing, about materials, about color, just the impact that buildings have on us. This place has the ability to make you think about those things and look at things in a really positive way. How can environment enhance my life and challenge my thinking?
The Alden B. Dow Home and Studios also offers educational opportunities that focus on architecture for adults and kids of all ages. The home is available for you to tour throughout the year. Just make sure to call ahead of time to reserve yourself a spot. For our next story, we travel to downtown Saginaw to visit another building that, needless to say, is pretty hard to miss. This one-of-a-kind destination tells the tale of how one city has reinvented itself time and time again. So we take a step inside this awe-inspiring castle and take a step back in time as we visit the Castle Museum of Saginaw County History.
History really is hundreds of smaller stories, one built on the other. One of the questions that I sometimes ask, what is the reason you or your family moved to Saginaw? And it's really why you're here and how you fit into this kind of puzzle that really forms Saginaw.
A puzzle. It really is the perfect analogy for what museums all across our state are facing when trying to piece together stories from history. And the Castle Museum of Saginaw is no exception. 3 floors of exhibits with thousands of artifacts that span hundreds of years of Saginaw County history. And every artifact, no matter how big or small, has a story to tell.
What I say is, we collect things so we preserve stories. What the statement is, the Smithsonian Institution claims to be the nation's attic. We're really Saginaw's attic. Some of the things literally have come directly from the attic to us, but they're things that people have treasured that tell the story of the community. They donate them to the museum, but it's really more than a donation. They're entrusted for the museum to preserve for the future.
Whether it's our volunteers or our interns or our members, the staff, all contribute to telling unique stories here. Every exhibit is special, and it has contributions from so many people that really kind of enhance it, because it's not just one person's perspective, it's many people's perspective.
And you'll get quite a perspective before you even walk in the front door, when you look up and admire this extraordinary building. Now, the castle's original purpose, and no, I'm not making this up, was to act as the city's post office. Now, you may be saying to yourself, a castle is not designed for a post office. And the people in Saginaw in 1898 would have agreed with you. But it didn't take long for the castle to become one of the city's most prized landmarks. And to this day, it's still leaving visitors speechless.
I think the building is just fabulous. That's the initial attraction that draws a lot of people in because it's a unique building. But once they get in here, they're really surprised at all the wonderful things that they can see on display. So there's a lot of wonderful architectural features. Our spiral staircase is wonderful. People love going up the grand spiral staircase. The Saginaw cycle car is on display in our lobby, along with Lady Justice, which was one of the statues that was actually on our courthouse. We have a model train that's over 1,000 feet of working model railroad, which a lot of people just love coming to see it. In our lower level, we talk about our archaeology. The Saginaw Valley is very rich in their archaeological history. There have been people living in the Saginaw Valley for over 10,000 years.
It really was a marshy area that Native Americans had really learned to make this area work, and East Coast settlers were really put off by the amount of marsh and mosquitoes and stuff, and it really was the discovery of lumbering and its reinvention as a lumbering capital of the world. And then in the 19th century, the city really persevered, and the community persevered, the whole county, to reinvent itself as an industrial and agricultural region, and it's really a theme that we see replayed several times throughout the history of the community.
That theme of reinvention permeates all throughout the Castle Museum. Even the building itself went through extensive changes over the years, with remodeling and additions, and in the late 60s and early 70s, they even thought of tearing the whole thing down. But it was saved when the community spoke out and refused to sit idly by and watch their beloved castle face the wrecking ball. A second chance at life was also given to this 1915 jewelry store that was once located just a few blocks away.
One of my favorite artifacts in the museum is one of the largest, is Meyer Brothers Jewelry Store, which is an entire interior of a jewelry store, but it's not because it's this 1915 jewelry store. It's really because all of the cabinets, all of the glass was made in Saginaw using the kind of a body of craftsmanship that had started in the community in the 19th century. Saginaw, by the early teens, had the largest plate glass factory in the state of Michigan. It really is kind of a showcase, and the pun is deliberate, of how Saginaw reinvented itself as an industrial city.
You may notice when you peruse the exhibits in the Castle Museum that some of the artifacts are objects that we use every day. Take, for instance, this 1950s kitchen. It has a refrigerator, an oven, a TV. No big deal, right? But what it does is gives visitors a tangible connection to their past and reminds them that not all history is fossilized. And these objects have inspired numerous community members to go into their own attics to find items that they can donate to the museum to continue this tradition of storytelling.
Sometimes if I'm going out to pick up a donation or we're working on an exhibit and we're interviewing someone, there are stories that people have shared with me that other family members, after the person has left the room, has said, that's the first time I've ever heard that. I feel very honored to be able to be a part of learning their story and then being able to share it with others around them. When somebody comes in and says, oh, I love what you did to display this particular artifact, then I feel like I've done justice to their story.
It's always amazing what we learn from them. When people come in, they ask questions. They also, just with interacting with them, we learn more about the subjects that we have on display, and sometimes we've had to do a second exhibit just because we've learned so much.
They'll come and they'll say, when my niece and nephew comes to town, one of the first places they want to go is the Castle Museum. And we're like, that's cool, that's what it's all about, and that's just really what makes our job exciting.
The Castle Museum has begun to bring the stories of Saginaw's history to local school children with a 60-foot mobile museum called History on the Move. All Saginaw County public, charter, and private schools are eligible to host History on the Move free of charge. For more information on the museum and to stay up to date on their latest exhibits, just visit their website, castlemuseum.org. Next, we head to the small Isabella County community of Shepherd, which is best known for its Maple Syrup Festival held each April. But a much lesser known event brings members of the village together in October as jack-o'-lantern enthusiasts gather to create a spectacular display celebrating Halloween. Destination Michigan's Steve Smith experienced all the fun last fall.
We are carving 1,000 pumpkins. It's kind of a tradition that we have. Like the first year we did 250, and then the next year we did 500, and this year we're doubling it and going to 1,000.
1,008 pumpkins to be exact. Madeline's dad came up with the idea.
My family loves Halloween. We enjoy it. And I put it up to the kids one day. I says, hey, what do we do this? And they thought that was a pretty cool idea. And it's kind of snowballed from there. And I guess maybe that's just, one thing maybe down the road they'll remember, my crazy father, we carved 1,000 pumpkins, or maybe 2,000 or 3,000 or whatever we end up at.
What started as a family event quickly caught the community's attention.
Mom, dad, friends, family, there's even a few people, I'm not really sure who the heck they are, but that's what we're here for.
It's pretty cool. I like seeing everybody smile and carve pumpkins. Earlier my teacher came and I like to have her over here, and I like hanging out with my friends and carving pumpkins.
Everybody does work together to make different things like this happen and support each other, and Ken just does a great job with organizing different things for the communities.
A feat of this nature doesn't just happen. It's a process that requires a lot of coordination.
Papa's Pumpkin Patch in Mount Pleasant there, Bill Miller, he and I picked the pumpkins, I think it was Monday, we went out there and picked them. And brought them into the yard, and we power washed them off, get all the dirt off them and everything. We have a gutting station where we have guys with electric drills that gut them. It actually looks like a beater that you can chuck up into the drill. And it's curved just right, so it just cuts the heck out of that sucker when you get her in there. You just go around in a circle and dump her out. And they actually go into the garage where the carvers carve them. Then from there, right to the line.
Each pumpkin, I just look at how big it is and decide how big a face I want or design, and then I just start carving, and then I just go from there. I'm trying to keep them somewhat simple because we got so many to do, so I don't want to spend a long time on just one little pumpkin.
And everyone gets caught up in the excitement for a different reason. Whether it's hanging out at a friend's, being part of a holiday community event, or reviving your inner child.
I just left my house and my in-laws were there, and they said she's still just a kid at heart. So I've always liked holidays, and Halloween's right up there with one of them, and it just kind of is just fun to be a kid again.
Or maybe you just want to be part of a great pumpkin spectacular.
We normally get a lot of paparazzi.
Just the kids, my kids especially. They get a kick out of it. That's probably memories right there.
If you haven't experienced 1,000 jack-o'-lanterns all aglow, mark your calendar for a trip to Shepherd next Halloween. Madeline says she hopes to keep her dad's tradition going strong.
I'll probably do the same thing as he's doing, but I'll probably not be carving. I'll not be gutting them. I'll probably be carving them instead of gutting, because gutting is boring.
The folks of Shepherd would like to send a special note of thanks to the Roth family for enriching life in their tiny town. And for our final story, our dear friend Bob Garner introduces us to his longtime friend, retired Army Brigadier General John Kolhavi, who has built something truly magical in the town of Comins, just west of Grayling. Bob and the Destination Michigan crew were fortunate enough to spend the day with John at his latest passion project, Cedar Valley's Wild Frontier Fun Park.
Located near Fairview, Michigan, is one of the darndest amusement parks you'll ever see. Built across from his Cedar Valley golf course, John Kolhavi has built a place he calls Wild Frontier Fun Park, and that it is. John's an old friend. He's a general retired from the Army, a financial expert par excellence, and the funnest grandpa in the whole world, according to his granddaughter Izzy. John believes kids in the North ought to get a crack at some of the fun he had riding these rides when he was a kid. John, why? I mean, you take a look around this place. You're in the middle of the woods. It's like Hansel and Gretel, and you walk through the gates, and you've got an amusement park. Why did you pick this place to put an amusement park in?
Basically, we built it so that local people come up on weekends, have a place to go to enjoy themselves, entertain their families, a place for kids to have fun.
Well, you've got carnival rides here. You've got a putt-putt golf course that is equal to anything I've seen in the state of Michigan. It's great stuff. 2 trains here, and tilt-a-whirls. What's your favorite ride, John?
Probably the Spider.
The Spider?
Yeah, it's a fast ride. It goes up and down, the car spin. I enjoy that one probably the most.
And these are not rides that somebody has just conjured up. These are the classic rides that you and I rode when we were kids.
I have a young man that basically is employed full-time by us now. And he goes all over the country trying to find vintage rides that are mechanically sound.
Whoa, look at that. You got them spinning, John.
This place was not built to be a moneymaker. I mean, I don't anticipate I'll ever see any type of return. My goal is to have it support itself. If enough people come that we can pay for the overhead, cover the maintenance, the utilities, that's our, and as long as people come, we anticipate continue to add. We have enough room that we can add for some period of time. Last summer we had 7 rides, today we have 12, plus the batting cages and the miniature golf course. We've already purchased a small roller coaster, a tilt-a-whirl, and we're negotiating on a 3rd ride as we speak. So next year we'll have at least 3 more in addition to what we have now.
So you and Walt Disney are going to have something in common by the time this is over.
I don't think I could ever match Walt Disney. That carousel, to the best of our knowledge, is the only one remaining in the country. It was built in 1951. It's a Herschel Walker, which is state-of-the-art. And actually, Herschel Walker has photos of that in their museum. It's been totally refurbished. You know, when you see kids laughing and smiling and having a good time, I mean, to me, that's what life is about. My wife and I enjoy, we have a lot of grandkids. And we had 11 grandkids here about 3 or 4 weeks ago. And the park's supposed to stay open till 9. They were here till 10 after 10. We found out till me it's time to leave. They just enjoyed riding all the rides and having a great time.
I can sense maybe a grandkid's birthday coming up here that we might.
Perfect. We'll give you a great deal.
Well, that's going to wrap things up for us on this episode of Destination Michigan. And from all of us here, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.